Blessings, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good day to you, or good evening, whatever time of the day that you may be watching this. I'm the one and only Mr. LP, and I pray everybody's enjoying themselves on this Juneteenth. Hello and happy holidays to you all. I'm glad that you're able to join us for our podcast today for Enliven Global Media. And today we have a very good show for you, and I hope that today everybody is safe, they had a good time. No troubles, no flat tires breaking down on the road, and everybody stay cool. It's pretty hot out there in a lot of areas, and also, unfortunately, some tornadoes and storms that may have caused some issues for a few people. But I pray that everybody is safe. Now, today, as all of you may or may not know, today is Juneteenth, and just a wonderful day in remembrance of all the different things with our culture, and also just many things that you really need to be pay attention to. Now, today's show, we're going to be here. Now, unfortunately, some of our other co-hosts may be popping in, popping out. So just please join us and bear with us as they come through. But I encourage you highly to really pay attention to this today's show, because we're going to cover a lot of different issues and things. And please, 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 if anything else, I'll give you a moment. Grab your pen, grab your cell phone, grab your notebook, a pen and paper, because we're going to cover a lot of different things later in the show. We're not going to keep too long, no more than maybe up to an hour, but we're going to cover a variety of different topics and issues that you may or may not be aware of. Okay, so today's show, the title, and I know it may seem a little bit strange to some, but today's title is Juneteenth and the Global Black Identity, from celebration to consciousness. And part of the reason for this show is just a variety of different things that we're just not doing. And tonight, I just don't want you to feel that we're going to sugarcoat anything. We're here to tell the truth. And as Juneteenth, continues to grow on a national holiday, we watched it drift further and further away from its original purpose. Today should be sacred, a time to reflect on freedom and educate our children, and to build a future that's rooted in pride and progress. But too often, way too often, we see the same distractions over and over again. Rap showcases with no substance, jumping up and down using the N-word, vape shop specials instead of conversations, and more. That seems to be dominating the Juneteenth holiday. And we're going to try to help reset the tone for what we can. We can't save the world, but we can at least do our part. We're reclaiming Juneteenth as a cultural cornerstone within our communities, and we're going to be global about it. We're going to be intentional about it, because Black culture isn't just American. It's not just African as well, throughout the continent of Africa. It's not a country, it's a continent full of different countries. It's South America, it's Eastern Europe, it's Australia, it's East Asian, it's everywhere. We exist everywhere. Different forms, different multi-generational, multicultural within it. We're integrated everywhere. And if we're going to honor our ancestors correctly, we must also connect with our people around the world. And that's what's missing. It's not just about one day. It's about awakening a worldwide consciousness. And so let's get into it. We exist, and I want us to talk about it. So going with that for Juneteenth. Now, too often, like I mentioned, saw a lot of postings. We have a rap concert, we have a fashion show, but nothing regarding African cultures and things. We just have to do better. It's reduced to parties and commercializing Blackness for sale, which, I highly encourage Black businesses and businesses, small businesses, businesses of color, BIPOC community. But we don't just look at it as a commercialization type of thing. There's substance to it. We need to have more discussions about how corporations and organizations are capitalizing this day, and what is actually being done. Are we capitalizing it to say, okay, we're going to sell some shirts, things, and then that's it, and nothing's giving to the community, and also honoring the origin of it? There's a lot of people that just push for this day, but they only push for this day because they looked at it from a standpoint of how we can commercialize it to make money. And without honoring the origins, such as freedom from slavery, the delayed emancipation in Galveston, Texas, and other things. And we are lacking positive programming from a national sense. We can go have concerts, and I'm not hating on except for the foolishness. But I'm not hating on the people that want to do concerts. If you want to sit back and smoke, whatever. I'm not here to hate. Some say judging. We use the word judging wrong. You have to make a decision every day. That's a judgment call. What we don't do is condemn. But we are lacking programming centering around some cornerstones that are really needing to be prevalent within our communities, such as Black education. We already know the numbers. I don't need to sit there and go through it item by item, but we already know that our numbers within our communities are very low. And low for all our communities as a nation. America has fallen off the wheels when it comes to math, science, history, whatever. I find it funny that we could go around the nation and change the military bases back to celebrating heroes, a confederacy of people who wanted to destroy the Union and maintain slavery. But you don't want to teach classes about African American history and Asian history and all these other different things. As long as we talk about the Roman Empire constantly over and over again, those type of things, Latin history, Amish culture, what have you. All these cultures exist, and we exist, and these history lessons and stories need to be told. Health equity. Now, we already know the dangers that we are facing as a nation without a national health care plan, other than just Medicaid for those. We need Medicaid for all, national health care, free health care, whatever you want to call it. It's just that we are sad that we're ranking darn near the bottom, and for a developed nation and all these other nations for your G7, G20, wherever else, we're the only one without a national health care plan. Makes no sense. Yeah, it should be. To me, we have enough money to let it be free. But hey, if it's a $200 or $400 a month, a year, so be it. But we have to start somewhere and improve down the line. Just like how Social Security, many people didn't want it, but then as time goes on, it's improved, and still more improvement needs to be made regarding it. But we need something. Our health, we need to be aware of the markers and the triggers, and we need to learn our cultural history so we know what was there present that could possibly still affect us today, whether from a Latin culture, from somewhere, one of the countries in Africa, or somewhere else. We need to be aware of our health and our issues, and get off our so many pills if we can, natural things, understanding what happening to. We're still facing this crisis of Black women and Indigenous women not getting the care and getting things, and too many are dying in the hospitals, but not receiving prenatal care, all these other things. And also, let's just be real, and some may not like this statement, but if you know that you do not have access to good quality healthcare in your area, and you do not have the funding, why keep putting yourself in bad situations by having children and hurting your culture and our future? Don't get me wrong, I understand people want to have children, and you should have a child if that's something you can, but don't be so selfish about it, and you want to have children, but you know that you are inconsistent with your housing, you're inconsistent with your income, all these different things, and you want to live your best life, but then at the same time, both man and woman don't want this to be a aspiration of women. It's both men and women. You're not doing the right things to prepare yourself. We need to have these discussions. Lack of prenatal care, lack of care for housing for many of our elders who are not able to get anywhere. These things are very important. We also need, regarding Black programming, the lack of programming, we need to have more history workshops, and not just, again, not just showing the roots or Good Times or Shaka Zulu again, not hating on those programs, but we need to do more. We exist in so many other different ways around the globe and within Africa as well. So many people, there's Black history museums in almost every state in the here. It's not just the main one in DC. Before DC, there was an excellent Black history museum in Alexandria. We had the Blacks and Wax Museum in Baltimore. There's so many other different things out there that we could definitely do, but we are not doing what we can to secure the bag. And when it comes to our education, we need to talk about how we've helped participate, if not led, different businesses around the world, trade. What else do we have? Agriculture. arts, humanities, all these different things within our history. That's what we have today. I've always find it very disheartening that the same way that we go out to our movies and things when we see certain actors, Denzel or whoever, we don't make that same effort. And when it comes to the theater, he recently just completed an executive produced a stage play, but on Broadway, excuse me. But it shouldn't have to just take him to get involved. We should celebrate all actors and all types of things, chorus line to waitress to whatever play that's out there. And no, not just about Hamilton. That's a different story, and I don't want to get into that, but that's a mess. Whenever something's just popular, we need to stay involved. Poetry and best. Just so many different things out there. We should be aware of our stage and screen and stage, Broadway, off Broadway, your local theater, support them. These are the actions, intentional actions that help grow our culture. Before all of this other stuff, that's all what we had was stage and theater. So we need more workshops honoring that and inventions, politics, social community work, those who have made changes in education. There's so much out there. Why are we not having history workshops on Juneteenth? We also have entrepreneurship and legacy building. We talk about Tulsa. We talk about the first Black Wall Street was here in Richmond, Virginia. We also have Rosewood. We have Seneca, New York. We have DC. We have all these other different areas throughout the country that we had tremendous legacy building. Not just, we all don't just exist in Atlanta and Houston, okay? Granted, those are some thriving areas and I'm appreciative of those areas. But and there's people who live in those areas and don't even know your cultural history there. That's just strange. It saddens me. There are people who are busting their neck to get to things here, but you're not even aware of what's going on in your local city. Explain that. Riddle me this. We need to do better when it comes to that. And there's a level of importance of ensuring events featuring authors, elders, Black historians, educators, health professionals, not just performers. So, some say, oh, geez, another speech, another what have you, another talking point. But these are the things that we are unaware. And they want you to, those who are against us, they don't want us to unite. They don't want us to be educated. They do not want us to be aware of what's going on and what we can do. Because the more we are able to educate ourselves, the more we are able to stand up for ourselves, fight for ourselves, and be aware of the laws and make it work more in our favor. But the more we are disbanded and not aware, the further the ship sinks, excuse me, and it's going to be harder and harder to raise that ship. What Juneteenth should be doing for our minds, bodies, and communities? Well, let me tell you. We need to encourage more and more cities to host events sponsored by those cities. These cities' events in counties as well need to have more mental health sessions because there are mental health. Some say, oh, we've fallen weak or what have you. Mental health was always there. Unfortunately, we just now being more aware and intentional about it the last 10 to 15 years. But we need more mental health sessions for men and women. Voter registration drives. It pains me. We always want to wait till primaries or a time to vote before we do anything, but more voter registration and educating yourselves about the importance of voting to be a part of the process. Financial literacy workshops. There's so many people that still do not know how to budget, understanding that, mortgage is not rent. People still don't understand how interest works, CDs work, 401ks work. They just know that, oh, I should get a 401k. There were pensions. These 401k deals were, and honestly, I know some have found success, but to me, they just scams versus pensions, or, and they're making more money off of your 401k. And if anything else, just a sidebar, you should have your 401k separately than the company. Yes, the company may match and do all these other different things, but what happens is a lot of companies get rid of you before the cliff. And it's usually if you read your policies, they're anywhere between 3, 5, 7 years. And they tend to try to find ways to fully invest into that amount in that time. And what that allows them to do is not necessarily fully pay into it. They give you a certain portion of it, and a certain amount of match. But when they get to a certain amount, now we got a whole lump sum that we made money off of, and we got to give some of it to you. Let's find a reason to get rid of you. And thus, you don't get the matching, and you're not fully vested. They're not fully vested. But so things like that need to be told. These stories need to be told. What to do if you win a large sum of money, how to secure with life insurance for your family in the future, health insurance, insurances for your property, business insurance. All these different things are an important part of financial literacy, what it takes to start a business and paying your taxes. Our understanding of taxes, not granted, that could be a whole big show in itself, but still, we should have a better understanding than what we do. Too many people in our culture don't even know how to use the basic forms of Excel, much less the formulas and all these other things. Do not know how to use various tax software to financial software to maintain your budget. We just see how much money left when we buy whatever and press OK on Amazon, Walmart, whatever you're doing online, on your cell phone, or your laptop, tablet, without actually seeing how money works. We need to have more screening for diabetes, hypertension, kidney issues, cancer. We need plenty of these set up. We are at a tremendous rate of the number of nurses available within our communities, especially nurse practitioners. It would be more, advantageous. It would be much more well received if our nursing organizations do more to have these screenings, these sessions and events at these. If you want to have a celebration, sure, party, sure, but have these things there and available, things that's going to help us, our wellness. Those are the things that we should be doing. We should also have more organizing different groups, neighborhood cleanup groups, cultural storytelling, and local Black business expos on Juneteenth. Now, one of my biggest hangups in our communities, and I'm going to say right now in our Black and Latino communities, is how dirty we let things go. Now, if your area is fine, cool. It's not about you. Okay, so don't get mad trying to shoot the messenger and the information I'm trying to share. But we need to do better. We talk about Harlem, we talk about Newark, we talk about areas of Philly and Richmond and DC, and I'm just naming big cities. But we have to do we need to just get this, nip it in the bud. Whether we need to get more city trash cans, we need to start enforcing the city to pick up the trash. Heck, do what some of these other communities do and just start getting the trash themselves. Make your kids get up in the morning, the kids that are bad, or those in jail, those in juvenile detention, what have you, or just, you have to be a person in those situations. Just take charge, take action in your communities. I remember, true story, a coach one time, we went somewhere. We went to, I think it was a Burger King, Wendy's. I honestly can't remember, but we went to the place and we ate, and then I was cleaning up the trash. Some of the players left, what have you, picks up. Coach said, no. We got off that bus. We picked up all the trash. We took the trash out the thing. We picked up the trash on the yard and the ground and everything else. We learned our lesson. And it was just about taking care of your community. It used to be brownstones in New York and other places. You told you to take out the trash. That also meant take your neighbor's trash. You knew everybody in the community who was elderly, they never had to take out the trash. There was always somebody knocking on the door. And no, we don't get $1 or some change or whatever they do. But it was just part of what you're supposed to do. You see in the alleys, besides saying, these bags are busting, or you got animals that may escape, strays that tear out, do the right thing to protect everything so it doesn't happen. Fix your alleyways, fix your driveways. We should not be you see, even in a country where you have to manually take your trash to sometimes, and you see it there, trash all around, and you got 10, 12 dumpsters and not even full. Or if they happen to be full, fix it to where, it's at least halfway stacked neat or something. Don't just toss it. The trash in our communities have gotten way out of hand, and it shouldn't be out of hand at all before we even get to the way out of hand part. We need to do a better job with that. And we need to have to talk about that, how this is tearing up the air, the pollen, the pollution in our communities. That needs to stop. We need to have more cultural storytelling. That's really key. And there's so many people that's writing children's books and ideas for telling our stories for Black and Latino and Afro cultures. We need to have more storytelling, reading these books, and also local Black business expos. We have them throughout the year, but they really should be, on Juneteenth, and not just necessarily in the Black communities. Push it out there to all communities to let people know that we are here, we are aware. Another thing that we should be doing for our minds, bodies, and communities on Juneteenth is urging Black families to sit down during this holiday, not just say on that day, but maybe that weekend before, weekend after, in your churches and things, and have some intentional conversations about family legacy. It's not about Junebug and the crew ran the block, stories like that. No, we need about family legacy. And if you don't know it, then let's start it. Let's have these discussions. Reparations. What does that look like? It's going to be different for people, everybody, but we really should be having reparations. And it's not just giving you a bunch of money and just keep on going. We need to have a plan, intentional plans, designed, organized, that's going to help, not necessarily for you and your immediate pocket and your immediate enjoyment to go spend and go vacation and everything else. We need to take that money and invest into ourselves and land and property and all types of things and take control. Trillions of dollars are run through our pockets within our communities every single year, and we are not doing enough to reinvest into ourselves. If you're going to spend money, let it foolishly, or I'm going to say foolish, but if you're just going to spend money and you have it to burn, let it be in something to invest into yourself, in your family, in your future. Generational trauma. Lord Jesus, I wish I had some skill builders on this call. Generational trauma is a issue, aunties, uncles, so many people, we have a saying that, maybe family, but not necessarily by blood, but they're not family or whatever the saying goes. These generational trauma issues is sad. And we really need to start having some discussions about that, which is part of the mental health issue. They holding on to hate, holding on to misunderstandings. God knows if I held on to every single thing that a family member did to me, we'll never make it. Everybody will make it. Some things you just got to let go. Now, let's take the salt out the pepper shaker here. Yes, some things you can't come back. It's going to be hard to come back from, if at all. Rape, abuse, sexual assault, all those different things. Yes, I do understand that. But outside of that, and still you got to deal with the trauma. Some may never adjusted to that. Some may not have talked about that. These things are very important to ensure that we move on and heal from it. It may still always be there. For some it does, some it may not. But the only way we're going to get further along is if we do more to address the generational issues and trauma. Another thing that we should be urging our families to sit down and talk about is land ownership and economic power. I am very keen on that. There's no reason why. I'll use Richmond, for example. Not too long ago, Chamberlain Avenue was up for sale. A lot of buildings that were happy, and we had opportunities, and we did not do it. So we have families that are getting $2, $3, $5, $7, $10,000 in back taxes or refunds, and people are using it as a get out of jail free card to go spend, go do whatever. No, we should be combining that money every year. It should be to a point where, for those who are working or investing or doing something, everybody get together in your families. We all could pull in $2,000, $3,000, find a piece of property, get it, build it, put some homes, build some businesses, whatever it may be, invest. Why we can't seem to get that together in our thick skulls, I don't know. We see other cultures do it. We see other families stay together and build and what have you, but our culture struggles with this aspect in terms of land ownership and economic power. And when you start controlling that, you have a lot more access. Your voting power is there, your economic dollar is there, and they have to spend money in certain aspects within your community that involves the power that you have within land ownership. So, we need to have more powerful stories about Black diaspora around the globe. And that's going to be the other half of the show today that I'm going to discuss. Afro-Cubans and Afro-Brazilians are still fighting for visibility in equality. Brazil has the largest population of African Americans and Black people overall outside of Africa. Eastern Europe, Black populations in Ukraine, Poland, and Russia often face severe, now Russia's part of Asia, sorry, but often face severe racism, but also have very tight-knit communities and share powerful stories. I can tell you as a person that I've been to all of those three areas: former Yugoslavia, Macedonia, I can't think of the other Slavic countries. Been to many of them. Lived in Poland for a little bit, and it's amazing the communities that you see over there and the stories and things and trade and just so much going on at the time. Really need to learn more about those as a community. Small but growing in East Asia, there's still a small but growing Black populations within Japan, South Korea, China, a lot of expats, and complex realities that's balancing, the identity, isolation, and also curiosity. The people there, you're not like what we see on TV and the rap videos, and in some areas, all they see is us acting a fool in rap videos. The actors and musicians getting into trouble, or bad military people sleeping around and abusing people. That's all what they get to see sometimes. And sometimes that's media faults. And a lot of it is our own fault because we allowed it. So I can't get mad at them too much. But now it's your responsibility to be on your best behavior, not to prove something to them or to make white people feel comfortable in some areas or make Latin people comfortable or whoever. It's our responsibility just for your own soul, much less the legacy of your family. And don't ruin your family name. In Oceania areas, you have indigenous Black groups like in Papua New Guinea and Torres Strait Islands, Malaysia, Guam, excuse me, other areas, Northern Marina Islands, where they're often left out of global Black conversations. That's wrong. Dead wrong. And it's very important now in the days of technology that we are connecting with these communities digitally and also building global coalitions for advocacy. That's very important. Exchange and solidarity. Again, unity, growth. Those are very important. Now, some may ask why it's time to build a global Black identity rooted in truth, pride, and action. Well, Pan-Africanism isn't just a slogan. It really is not. It should be about strategy. Everybody running their race. Sometimes everybody is trying to fit in, do a certain part, handle more things. But we gotten into this thing that if you're not in charge, we try to sink. Some of our people will try to sink the ship just because they're not in charge. Take your basketball and go home because you weren't picked. That type of thing. Well, we need to have more strategic actions in how we go about it and be wise in our actions and staying on point, staying on task. What does it look like to build an international network of Black-led education, media, and economic partnerships? What does that look like? How can that be done? I have several ideas regarding that, and we could have discussions about that later on. And there are some correlations already out there, but we're not connected as we should be. We need to encourage younger generations to think globally, start studying abroad, possibly learn more African languages, connect with other diasporic movements. There's the Afro-Cuban, Afro-French, indigenous, Afro-Asian communities all around the world. We need to start having some connections and start being familiar, even if you're not able to obviously maybe not go over there to different areas and participate in marches or other things, but you can write, you can read, you can share, share stories. We'll share 1,000 million times regarding something that happened on a housewife show, but we cannot sit there and discuss and share about something that's happened in the community unless somebody was actually shot by an officer or something. And now, now we want to jump on a bandwagon, but we don't want to do it on our everyday lives. That's something that may not receive viral attention. Just telling how it is. Now, other part of the show that I want to get into is, okay, so we talk about these previous things that we mentioned, but now let's get into the Black diaspora of it. I want to share a window. Let me share a screen. So we're going to go into some things that I'm going to go into. Now, let me start off here. Okay. Now, within here, we have the untold stories of Africa and Ukraine. There's a lot that goes on, unfortunately, that's not being told from a global perspective. Okay. And, during the early stages of the, let me go back over here. During the early stage of the Russia-Ukraine war, Black students and residents there was a lot of reports about discrimination while trying to flee, including being blocked from trains and borders. I've seen several videos, and where they just weren't allowed to leave, or other places were allowing them in. And organizations like this website here, Nor United, have helped bring attention to this plight and all these different stories. And I want people to write down this website, NOIR United, UNITED.org. You're going to see a lot of things, not just about, the stories in Ukraine, but, their mission, where they work, their press, and various updates and things like that. So we are doing some other different things from there. So we're trying to go from there. Excuse me 1 second. B.
Can I have that Nicolina's fettuccine
alfredo? Yeah. Sorry. So we're doing those things are very important regarding it. Also, let me come over here. There's another thing, part of teamvogue.com. You'll see here, there was a great article, Me Too, supporting Black students here in the U.S. 3 years at the time of this article about the invasion in Ukraine, what they're doing to support those who were affected by it. Go to the tab. You'll see this on the Team Vogue and the story. Nor United put this article out, and it was supported by Team Vogue and some other different groups. Mercy Albert Ashford helped Black students reach safety and resources since the fallout. and it's a very good article for people to learn about what's been going on. Another tab I wanted to go into is let's talk about this: Black people, Poland, and representation of realities. Now, although there's a smaller amount of people in number, Black communities are present in cities like Warsaw and Krakow. Hopefully, if I butchered it, please forgive me. Poland is ranked, around the European nations, the EU, with lower reported levels of racism, and anti-racism. I can honestly say that when I was in Poland, treated like a king, just literally. Not that I was looking for that, but it was just a shock just to be able to go there and not. I did not feel the. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. Don't get me wrong, but I did not feel the level of hate, the fear of other people, the crossway look, the subtle and not so subtle racist comments, intentions, mindsets, all that type of stuff. I didn't have that in my time. I wasn't there super long, but everybody was just so welcoming and loving. And it wasn't because most of the time that people travel are usually on a consistent level, usually the military or something on the rich side of things. We're living there as an everyday person and going there, working with a law firm, and also traveling to different places with that law firm. You saw a lot of you get to see a lot of different things. Excuse me, sorry, bad grammar. But yet, racism and xenophobia still does exist, and especially in some of the rural areas. But this is a good article from culture.pl from Poland, Black people in Poland and representation of realities. Please take a look at this article. It's a great article. And also, in Russia, there's still there's still a lot of Black people within Russia, in small but sometimes often invisible towns facing, and they get a lot of surveillance within them, those communities. And despite this, there are some grassroots efforts to build visibility through music, social media, and youth culture. Now, why people will still want to be in Russia? Some grew up there, some were born there. I get it, but Black Russians are either usually students and children from African diplomats that are there, and also have dual identity crisis, from being Black and Russian, and it can be a traumatic time for many of them. But they have a lot of great stories there that you can check out. Another person, to talk about Black communities in Japan, South Korea, and China. In Japan, the Black population is mostly composed of, African American expats, students, and Africans working in education or some level of business. While there's a great admiration for our Black culture, especially in, J-pop, K-pop, and all these other things, music, fashion, sports, you can see a tremendous amount of influence. There's still a lot of microaggressions there and isolation sometimes within it. What they say they want our stories, but not our blues, whatever. I'm sorry, I don't have the saying correctly, but they don't want the story of how we got there. They want to share in the success, but not the, the ladders we climbed to get to this level. Black people in Korea face a lot as well, but let me backtrack. Social media influencers, and such as this person I'm put up here, Bay McNeil, BAYEMCNEIL.com. He's a musician, author, columnist. He's a consultant of a variety of different things, but he's a columnist, and a really wonderful author. And he's brought a lot of global attention through his works and stories about being Black and in Japan and other areas as well. So I highly encourage people to take a look at this as well. And of course, in South Korea, you got K-pop, embraced by some elements. They have embraced several elements of Black culture, but there's still cultural appropriation and lack of understanding of the Black identity. That's still a very big issue in Korea. And, Black people in Korea face stares, they face ignorance, systemic exclusion, and various parts of society, even though if they're born and raised. We have a video game out now that they're mad at some of the people in Japan and Korea and other areas that featured African American characters, and now they're mad about that. It's crazy. There's an article from University of California called from the California Abroad that discusses Black life in Korea. The top Black thriving. Sorry, the top title is called "A Black Woman's Guide to Thriving in South Korea," and it was printed in June of 2024, I believe. And this is a very interesting article. And it's talked about her first week and the year around it, and visiting before her travels and so many different other things that she experienced. And it's a good article to learn, not necessarily just about traveling, but from her eyes. And I'm not saying it's the only set of eyes, but it just can help give you a little bit of understanding of what goes on for that. Another area is in China, African communities in Guangzhou and other, industrial cities are very large, and they have, due to China-African trade ties, and a lot of Africans are working there, and some were there during the war, and even before the war. Many still face xenophobic policies in certain areas, and visa challenges, and just racism. I know in 2020, there was a lot of African residents in Guangzhou where they were evicted from hotels and discrimination during the COVID crackdown. They just said, get out. And they just started blaming Africans, which was silly. Let me go to here. There's a lady here on YouTube, Mojiverse, is pronounced Mojiverse. Being Black in Korea in 2025, a street interview, being Black and Korean. It is a very insightful video. I highly encourage everybody to please take the time out to read about it or watch, I should say. Her tag is Moon Priviz, MOONPRIVZTE. Different ways how we spell things nowadays, but this is a very good video. I encourage viewer discretion is advised, but still a very good video to watch and gain some understanding. Another video to check from the CNA Insider is called "What Guangzhou's Little Africa Has to Do with China's Population Crisis." I'm not going to spoil that, but for you. But please take a look if you want to learn about how the global economy works and certain things when it comes to African Americans and Africans being in China. This is a very good video for you to check out. Another is from the ChinaStory.org. Governing Strangers, African Communities in Guangzhou. It was written back in December, and it's a very good article, something that I think that really teachers should have students read and write a report about, and it talks about how manufacturing and business works, but also from how it plays a role for African communities and how we've made sure this aspect of China thrives. The lives of Africans in Guangzhou have really been been negatively affected from China's, visa and residency restrictions and police control, following you, doing all these different things, and they still get it done. It's not just all native born China people Chinese people working there. I'm not hating. I'm not disparaging. I'm just saying that there's more than one culture there. You have Africans, a lot of Australians, Americans, and also South Africans. And there's even some indigenous Americans there working in these factories. The percentage, I don't know. There's been a wide range of 15 to 34%, depending on the news source. I have not been able to confirm anything as of yet. I'll work on that. But these are some of the things that goes on that we need to have some discussions about. Now, also moving over to the Oceania area, just giving some examples like Papua New Guinea. Let's come over here. The power of Papua New Guinea. They have a deeply rich cultural heritage. PNG's Black indigenous population faces a lot of neglect from local and international platforms. And I want people to realize that during the various wars, there's a lot of support from overseas came from Papua New Guinea and a lot of Oceania areas. One of them in Malaysia, some people in Taiwan, Guam, Philippines, and Australia, where some of the heavy participants in protests overseas during the various parts of the wars and civil rights days. I'm quite sure many of you did not know that. So something to look into. Excuse me. But the case came out in 2017. I had to dig deep to find this article. I just remembered, but I said I knew I had it in the tab, and all my research, I got so many tabs, but here, and then I got them all separated in categories, and it's like, okay, Black perspectives overseas, okay, and about 400 or 500 of them there, but found it. That was very important. Access to education, healthcare, infrastructure is very limited, and overall for the country, but especially towards Black indigenous people. Climate change also has been a great issue, especially, rising tides and pollution and mining pose threats towards a lot of people's land. A lot of people lost their land throughout this time. Leo Harnett was a very big person back in the University of Hawaii that talked a lot about what was going on in Papua New Guinea. The New Guinea Black Power Group, submitted in 1971 a proposal to the United Nations visiting mission to Papua New Guinea, and it is called for self-government, people's control of all their mineral resources, and more. This is where you see a lot of countries now, I will honestly tell you, and where they get some of the policies and the framework for certain things we're going to resource. Check out Papua New Guinea and look at what you have now in different countries and even here in America, and then start reading the policy in 1971 that was submitted from Papua New Guinea to the United Nations, and look at the comparisons. Just putting it out there, FYI, for a historical standpoint. Website for this is AAIHS. .org, and the title is Black Power in Papua New Guinea. Great. The African American Intellectual Historical Society. Great website. Save it. Again, it's AAIHS, African American Intellectual Historical Society. You're going to find some great information there as well for all the communities to sit back and learn, not just from the Black perspective, but all. The Torres Strait Islanders out in Australia. This group is often overlooked in Australia's national conversations in the world, much less I'm quite sure many of you weren't even aware. But even in Australia, they tried to ignore it. But though indigenous, they're racially, not radically, but they're racially Black and maintain a unique identity. Also have Aborigines as well, but their challenges include a lot of cultural erasure, which we're doing here in America constantly, climate displacement, and lack of political representation. I highly encourage for our people to really learn more about the plight of Aboriginal peoples. They're descended from the Torres Strait, and many of them, how should I say, are very I won't say prideful, but take great pride, and some call them fanatical, and I think that's wrong. They take great pride in their culture, their history, their food, what they're taking in, and what they're not taking in. And they do things like putting them in less areas of shade, vegetation, all these other different issues politically that's going on. And this is off the Britannica website that you will find a variety of different things. Britannica.com, Britannica.com. You'll get a little bit more information about the world influence, history, references, governance, all types of things. It's very important, and to take a look at them. And also going into Oceania a little bit, Malaysia, Fiji, Vanuatu, Solomon Islands, anti-blackness, anti-blackness, internalized colorism, and limited representation is a big issue also within their regional politics, within their various governments. Global solidarity with their struggles is rare. They don't get the attention, especially with those outside of the UN. And through movements like there was a book called Pacifica Black is helping to change that. And that came out about 3 years ago. And this is where you see here now, PASIFIKA Black, Oceania Anti-Colorism in the African World book. Let me tell you something. I read this book about a year after it came out. And I was aware, and I'm not saying I knew every single detail of what was going on, but this book was extremely good. Now, you might find the paperback book, some may not want the hardcover or what have you, but this is by Quetta Swan. And just the information that it got regarding the Oceania and the islands, there are great information about some musicians. A lot of them influence what we have today in terms of the island and cultural music that you see in the beats and things. A lot of them came from Oceania and also African nations. Black liberation, how they become liberated in various things through their revolutions. Feminist activism, justice activists. One of the original Aboriginal poets, Odogo Odokarai, in her 1976 information called The Black Pacific was extended into a national conversation with Nigeria's Wole Soroka, Nuclear Free, and Independent Pacific Amelia, and I could not get the name down, but Walker Valu, and Samoa's Albert Went, and many others that helped took things together and brought to the UN, brought to the global stage. And this was a big issue in 1976. I was 1 year old, but those in the 70s might remember that those were involved, and especially those who came home from the Korean War at that time, what was going on overseas for the Oceania. We need to do more, not just helping our brothers and sisters here, those who may have migrated from there, but just there overall, we need to do more. So in conclusion, let me remove this. Okay. So in conclusion, we need to do a better job of honoring Juneteenth and also recognizing our efforts and things within the Black diaspora. And we need to find better ways to salute, celebrate, and do more. Now, I thank all of you for watching our podcast today. Shout out to K-Manta, Anika, Tandalin, Arthur Tracy Hardy Scott, Victoria James, so many wonderful people, Nanette Swain. There's so many wonderful people that participated over the years. I can't name them all, but I thank you all for taking part of our show and continuing to support us. And we definitely could use your help in sponsoring in order to help continue to make this happen. And one of the major things is obviously please like, comment, and share. We do post weekly. We are working on getting more shorts and information and comments throughout the weeks uploaded on YouTube and Facebook. But we posted on Instagram and we posted on TikTok, but it just didn't fit. So we're sticking with this for right now. But if you share it, like it, do much more. We post some clips. If it starts to gain some more traction, we'll start going that direction. But we really could use your support to help go towards production and equipment and supplies and paying our streaming fees, all that type of stuff. So please go to patreon.com/Enliven Global Media. That's ENLIVEN Global Media. We also have our Cash App, $IMMRLP. We have Zelle, enlivengm@gmail.com. We definitely could use your support. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you're always more than welcome to email me at enlivengm@gmail.com. If you have any show topics, suggestions, thoughts, comments, whatever, like it, love it, hate it, whatever. If you need some more information on our cultural history on Juneteenth and also information around the world, please do let me know. I thank you very kindly. Again, I'm the one and only Mr. LP. Thank you, and may you all have a great and blessed day. Happy Juneteenth. Drink plenty of water, stay in some shade, and check out, be kind to our homeless population out there that don't have a place to go, our cooling centers, so support them, get them there, and also our seniors and those who are others within our underserved communities who are in need of service and support. Thank you. I love you all, and may you have a great and blessed day. Bye-bye.